China's rise as a modern nation has been nothing short of remarkable. The country's leaders often and proudly tell the world that in just a few decades, they've lifted more than 600 million people out of poverty. But China's economy is slowing. Cracks in the system are starting to appear. And it's the Chinese people who are facing the pain. Some economists warn the country's building boom never delivered real prosperity, that government spending has been poorly managed, even downright reckless.
Wet your finger and stick it in the wind and find a useless project in China.
The unchecked spending has left behind ghost towns, anger, and uncertainty. I'm Steve Chow. In this episode of 101 East, we investigate if this is the end of China's economic miracle. In northeastern China, a brand new city has risen out of farmlands. This is Shunfu, locally known as New Fushun. It's entirely deserted, a ghost town of epic proportions, 22 square kilometers of emptiness. With the economy faltering, construction ground to a halt last year, leaving empty strip malls and newly paved roads leading to nowhere. 司机大哥你好。你好。We meet Meng Xijun, a taxi driver who agrees to show us around. 这个楼也是还没盖。
这不是这就叫烂尾楼。
烂尾楼。
资金跟不上溜了，就不盖了。
空气在这里不会回去。空气是这个样。Xijun grew up in Old Fushun, the original city a few kilometers away. He believes the government has squandered taxpayers' dollars and squandered their future. His future. Officials spent hundreds of millions of dollars building the new zone, selling the place as a way for residents to enjoy a modern lifestyle. Xijun says people aren't buying the sales pitch.
没有什么事不上班啥的，这上班都得上市里去上班的，太远了。
所以这边你不会推荐要买，因为
买的烂手里头没人要。这中国就这样事儿，一个党执政，别的党没有参与权。
For 30 years, Xijun worked at the city's aluminum mill nearby. But in 2014, as China's economy slowed, he was laid off. Rather than massive building projects, he believes money should have been spent on helping retrain workers. Instead, he's had to fend for himself. From making $50 a day at the factory, Xijun now averages less than 10.
你要想用它致富啊，很难。你不做买卖，你这玩意儿，一天就那点，就能跑个200-300块钱，就这些钱，就都是你挣的，他也没多钱呢。
是怎么生活？
对，就这么生活。
We visit one of the city's development offices. Its reception, like the rest of the town, is deserted. Inside, we find a model of what New Fushun was supposed to look like. It's a grand vision of office towers and stylish residential living. The centerpiece of town is called the Circle of Life, a 60-story structure made from 3,000 tons of steel. It cost $16 million to build and was meant to attract tourists. But they, like the residents, are yet to materialize. Even more troubling is that hundreds of deserted cities like this can be found across China. There's an eerie feeling walking through these abandoned buildings. It's like time has come to a standstill. According to the government, China has more than 2 billion square meters of empty residential space. That's enough to house more than 100 million people. These empty shells have in many ways become symbols of a wild spending spree that some say has gone on far too long.
Get in a car, drive on any highway, get off on any exit, and ask the first person you run into, where's the development zone? And you will be directed to acres and acres of empty high-rises.
Economist Anne Stevenson Young spent 20 years in China and witnessed the boom years, but now fears the country's economy could collapse.
China has a huge debt problem, and the problem is that it's just relied on the same methods for a really long period of time of spend, spend, spend.
And she says that with all the bad investments, the country's debt is mounting at an alarming pace. In 2005, China owed 164% of its GDP. Today, it's almost double. This mountain of debt is piling up faster, and the economy is growing.
If China had been willing to give up that hyper-growth, then it might have avoided the potential for a serious crash and a serious debt crisis, but it didn't and it won't.
It's not just the ghost cities that point to overspending. This office building in the shape of an ancient coin cost $500 million, showing there's no limit to the fanciful dreams turned into concrete reality. Elsewhere, a replica of Dubai's Palm Island development, meant to be a retirement home for seniors. But construction here, too, has ground to a halt. Then there's this water park. The 30,000 square meter playground cost more than $300 million to build and was scheduled to open in the summer of 2015. It was supposed to provide the world's best aquatic experience. The sheer amount of waste here is shocking. It's taken considerable time and money to mix the concrete, to forge the steel, to make the bricks, even to design the architecture of these buildings. And instead, it's all been left to ruin. Stevenson Young says the building projects we've seen are just the tip of the iceberg.
It's a craziness on a level that you haven't seen elsewhere in the world, and you have to think that that's going to create a crisis of a level that hasn't been seen elsewhere.
While officials aren't keen to talk about failure, such projects are too big and too numerous to ignore. Government economic advisor Zhao Shijun admits China has a problem.
Certain local governments and parties might not have planned well. Once they go bankrupt, it's going to be really difficult to pay back the loans. I'm afraid we will need to take further steps in order to solve this debt issue.
Ensuring a stable economy is seen as crucial to the survival of China's Communist Party. Its leaders have long held an unspoken social contract with the people. Leave the governing to us, and we will make you rich. But at this year's annual party congress, even the leaders had to admit to making monetary missteps.
Our government indeed interfered in some unnecessary things that have held back economic productivity.
But still, officials deny the notion the nation is in financial trouble.
We are fully confident of China's long-term economic growth. As long as we continue to reform and open up, China's economy will not suffer a hard landing.
To prevent that hard landing, China is taking a controversial gamble. Despite the looming debt problems, it's encouraging citizens to take on even more debt, buy more real estate, and clear the oversupply. The question is, can they afford to? Traditionally, Chinese were good savers, but increasingly families are accumulating debt at a frightening rate. From 2007 to 2013, household debt rose by more than 330%. That's the highest rise anywhere in the world. In yet another newly built town, it's certainly business as usual. We find developers hard at work trying to sell their projects. We've heard that some developers and agents are so eager to sell, they're offering ways to obtain fraudulent mortgages. We meet a man who says he's been selling real estate for 2 years. Using hidden cameras, our producer and I pose as a couple interested in buying a home. Buying property in China used to be one of the safest investments, but the bubble has since burst in many of these small cities. That's not the story our agent is telling us. He says the price has already risen tenfold. But he claims new buyers like us can still make a hefty profit, and he can easily help us get a mortgage. When we tell him we don't have any income earnings to show the banks, he suggests we fake a letter of employment. What he's suggesting is a crime. Then he goes further. Falsifying sales certificates is also illegal. The realtor claims this is common practice. The possible result, the kind of debt that caused America's subprime disaster. Now it could be happening all over again here in China. Home buyers here are often told house prices will continue to rise, and they can sell at a profit. Instead, many of these new properties are virtually worthless.
Most people remain in denial. It's really kind of a fascinating thing to watch, how you can move all over this country, and for a long time people had really a kind of, it's kind of like a mass delusion.
Another sign that people are in serious debt is the proliferation of loan sharks. The men admit they charge back-breaking interest for their loans. It's China's leaders that are encouraging its people to take on debt. And for some, it's leading to these kinds of shady loans and bad mortgages. We find an excuse to leave. One of those worried about paying back her mortgage is Liu Junxia. She runs a scrapyard in Old Fushun. During the boom times, Junxia was encouraged by the government to take on debt and buy into the real estate dream. In her case, she bought 2 apartments, one for herself and one for her elderly parents. But now she can't afford the mortgages, and the threat of bankruptcy hanging over her is making her physically sick.
很生气，我这病，你看我这病啊，这上火得的，是上火得的这个疱疹。看后背，今天这不我这才上医院呢，你说我这上多大火呀？就跟这个钱呢，要不我还用这么老干嘛？完了买卖这么不好做，现在还得减刺，你不接这钱都叫他给骗了。
With the economic slowdown, her scrapyard is failing. Steel used to be a surefire business, and for 2 decades, business was booming for Junsha. There was an endless demand from government-funded building projects, and the steel mill next door bought anything she could sell them.
这是08年，在我刚干的时候钱也好挣，上收购站就拉货，完了给拉铝，人家主要是铝合金，拉铝合金啊、件铝啊，针对铝那个时候，最刚我没整那时候，年轻时候。
现在卖铁卖得好吗？
不好，这不又掉价了，这就赔钱，这一嘎巴完了，一吨还得赔个180块钱。
And that's had a direct impact on her workers. She can now only afford to hire them part-time. 他们每天来？
不每天来，我每天都来，那个没有那么多活儿，就是有活的时候叫他来干一天。
Junsha now cooks for her workers to try and ease their financial pain, to make up for not being able to pay their full wages. Generously, she also offers us lunch.
哇，你真的煮太多了。
不多。
哇，谢谢。
Even though, with money so tight, she counts every cent.
所以自己煮的时候会省多少？
自己做的就省很多钱。
很多钱了。
哦。
还比较好吃。
我做的不好吃。
Junsha and her workers aren't the only ones struggling to survive. The collapse of industry and the loss of jobs is fueling anxiety and anger across the country. Just weeks ago, in China's southwest, these miners went on strike. Far from sharing in the promised prosperity, they find themselves struggling to survive.
在我们的心中，对这种理解的话，是一种相当不公平的现象。我们是底层人，待遇相对而言不可能。 市场风险由我们劳动者底层人员来承担。
The strike here was quickly shut down, and most of the leaders have been arrested. Threatened with losing their jobs, many of the miners returned to work. But during shift change, we managed to talk with one protest organizer, who avoided jail.
那时候你们抗议的时候有多少个人？
我们全厂的员工不上班。
Wang Shibing has spent his life in the mines, but it's a life that's getting tougher, with less work and less pay. What finally made them walk off the job was learning the company had cheated them out of their medical and retirement funds.
你们应该很生气。
当然了，这个是必然的。现在也是为了生存，不得不委曲求全吧，在企业继续工作。
Under Chinese law, companies must cover such costs because of the toll this work takes. Like many, coal dust is embedded under Shibing's skin and in his lungs. He's also broken every bone in his hand.
不管伤的大小，都会留下这样的疤痕。只要你受过在井下工作的，随时都能够看见他的手上。你拿出他的手，就能够显而易见的，他就在煤矿工作。
Fearing his bosses will discover us at the mine, he leads us to a nearby house, where other miners have quietly gathered to speak to us.
所以你们是在这个矿工作多少年了？
我在矿14年。
14年。
你是17、18年。
17、18年。
13年。
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 These miners know just meeting with a journalist could get them arrested, but they insist on appearing on camera to tell the world what's happening.
反正每天都在想这个，他们什么时候能跟我们解决这个问题？
伤心噻，是噻，寒酸噻，是噻，没办法呀。 我假如说我是有个弟弟有个哥哥，如果是在中央国务院或者是哪个来说村里面，肯定我要搞他那什么了，就把他这样，因为我们家里贫穷，没有那种人士那什么，是吧？
For many, time is running out. One man shows me his medical certificate. He has lung cancer.
我都没飞过2-3年路，到这个得了2-3年现实都在一线，在一线工作的。
那个药公司有帮你们出钱吗？
公司没拿钱，都是自己出钱买。
自己出钱。
我要是都不然请得到，公不公平。
But the miners worry about more than their medical insurance. They worry about how much longer they'll have a job, at all. Many already have been laid off or made part-time. China's slowing economy and a shift away from polluting energy sources has meant a slump in the demand for coal.
原先批下4000多5000，现在只有1000多。担心，假如是这个厂垮了，我们有10多万还压在他公司里面呢，那个没给我们，还没给你们，没有。
The only housing they can now afford are small rooms like this, which they share together. They feel left out of China's success.
你们感觉社会是忘记你们吗？
我们也在工作，他们也是工作的，也是有手有脚的人士啊。人家有了那么大的能力，找那么多钱，开奔驰啊、宝马呀，那说是嘛。我们连自行车家里面那时候，你看那都没有一辆，52了。 你说我们在外面去找什么工作啊？不好找，对不对？你去找什么工作嘛？只有在这煤矿里面，在想法是，再有那时候我们是高位矿区嘛，再有2-3年、3-4年嘛，我们还想退休了嘛，给我们一点生活费噻。
把警察打了，现在。
In 2015, a record number of people took to the streets in protest. The government has done its best to shut down demonstrations, arresting and intimidating protesters. But their answer to the economic slowdown won't help the workers. Far from it. Economist Zhao Shijun says the days of propping up big industry are over.
那些确实是产能过剩的。
We call the businesses that have overcapacity or without good futures zombie enterprises.
僵尸企业，那肯定是要把它。
They must be shut down.
From your perspective, has development come too fast for China?
中国这个
China's a very big country, and development is very unbalanced.
但是现在中央政府
The perspective of the central government is we need to modify the old structure of development into a new one.
经济发展的这状态。
Bad loans, mounting debt. If the slowdown has been painful for the Chinese, what does this mean for the world?
China is roughly 16% of global population, and it's been consuming roughly 50% of global resources. That's going to stop, and that will be hugely impactful to Australia, Canada, Brazil, Indonesia, all of these people, and there's a huge chain of consequences.
Meanwhile, those who made China's boom possible will pay the highest price for the national spending spree.
That's the tragedy of the political system, this emergence from poverty of China since the 1980s. All these people working in all those factories with all these dreams, seeing their bank accounts mount, seeing a future for their children way better than they ever had. And those hopes, you know, the party managed to suck in that capital, throw it into empty apartments, and those are the people who will be hurt.
Back in Fushun, former factory worker turned taxi driver Meng Shijun says he's stopped believing the leader's promises.
经济的确没有原来好了，最起码怎么瞅呢？这些厂子什么的，好像都不像原来那么景气，而且呢，你发展的倒挺快，我工资也没见涨哪去，不一样。就突然就是不知道因为什么东西就都不行了。
He says he hopes he's wrong and that the government will fix things. But for now, it's hard for him to see a bright future for his country.